Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. His gray skin reflected the blue light from the control panels around him. After 200 years of military service, he had seen many battles and conquered many worlds for the Caltherian Empire. Today should have been just another routine patrol mission. The 47th Reconnaissance Fleet moved slowly through the dark space near a small yellow star. Their sensors had detected interesting radio signals coming from the third planet of this system. The signals were simple and weak, suggesting a primitive civilization that had just learned to use basic technology. Perfect for the Empire's expansion plans. "Admiral," called Officer Zithara from her station. Her voice carried a note of confusion that made Vextar turn toward her. "I'm reading something strange on the long-range sensors." Vextar walked over to her console. The young communications officer had been with his fleet for only 3 years, but she was sharp and rarely made mistakes. "What are you seeing?" "There's a ship approaching our position." "But sir, it's not in any of our databases. The design is completely unknown." Zithara's fingers moved quickly across her controls. "And the speed?" "Admiral, this ship is moving faster than anything I've ever seen." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. In 3,000 years of galactic expansion, the Caltherian Empire had cataloged every known spacefaring species. Their technology was based on ancient progenitor designs, making them the most advanced civilization in this part of the galaxy. No one should have ships they couldn't identify. "Show me," Vextar ordered. The main screen displayed a tactical view of their fleet. 12 massive dreadnoughts floated in perfect formation, each one capable of destroying a planet's surface. Escort ships surrounded them like protective shells. And there, moving toward them at impossible speed, was a single contact. "Size estimate?" Vextar asked. "Approximately 800 meters long. Much smaller than our dreadnoughts, sir." "But the energy readings are—" Zithara paused, checking her instruments again. "The readings don't make sense. It's like the ship is barely there but also generating massive amounts of power." Vextar felt a cold sensation in his stomach. Something was wrong here. Very wrong. "Hail them," he ordered. "Standard first contact protocols." Zithara sent out the universal greeting message in 17 different languages. The message explained that they were representatives of the Caltherian Empire and requested identification and intentions. They waited. Silence. "Try again," Vextar said. "Broader spectrum." Again. Nothing but silence from the unknown ship. On the tactical display, the mysterious vessel continued its approach. It was moving in a straight line toward the center of their fleet formation. No course changes, no evasive maneuvers, no acknowledgement of their presence at all. "Admiral," Commander Zekhar spoke up from the weapons station. "Should we arm defensive systems?" Vextar considered this. The unknown ship was small compared to their dreadnoughts. Even if it was hostile, what could one ship do against 12 of the Empire's most powerful warships? Still, caution had kept him alive for 2 centuries. "Bring shields to full power. Charge primary weapons, but do not target them yet. I want to see what they do." The crew moved quickly to carry out his orders. Throughout the fleet, massive weapons systems came online. Energy shields shimmered around each ship. If this unknown vessel wanted a fight, they would give it one. The alien ship reached the edge of their formation and simply stopped. It hung in space like a dark metal blade pointing toward Vexitar's flagship. Up close, the sensors could make out more details. The hull was smooth and angular, with no visible weapons ports or engine exhausts. It looked more like a piece of art than a warship. "Still no response to our hails," Zithara reported. "But Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy buildups inside that ship. Whatever they're doing, it requires enormous power." "Sound general alert," Vextar ordered. "All ships, prepare for possible hostile action." The alarm sirens echoed through the flagship. Across the fleet, thousands of Caltherian warriors prepared for battle. Gunners took their positions. Shields reached maximum strength. Fighter pilots ran to their craft. Then everything changed in an instant. The alien ship didn't fire weapons in any way the Caltherians understood. Instead, brilliant white beams simply appeared, connecting the mysterious vessel to each of their dreadnoughts. The beams were perfectly straight and incredibly bright, like frozen lightning. "What are those?" Vextar shouted over the sudden noise of alarms and panicked voices. He got his answer immediately. The first dreadnought, the Glorious Conquest, simply began to disappear. Not exploding, not burning, not breaking apart, It was dissolving like sugar in water. The massive warship that had served the Empire for 300 years was becoming dust and atoms. Impossible, breathed Commander Zekar. Nothing can do that to a dreadnought, but they were watching it happen. The white beam touched the glorious conquest and the ship ceased to exist. Every atom of metal, every piece of equipment, every crew member of 2,000 Caltharians was being unmade at the most basic level. Return fire, Vextar screamed. All ships target that vessel and destroy it. The remaining 11 dreadnoughts turned their massive weapons toward the alien ship. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids fired at maximum power. Missile launchers released swarms of explosive warheads. Energy beams capable of cutting through anything known to science lanced out toward their target. All of their weapons simply bounced off the alien ship's hull or disappeared completely when they got close. The mysterious vessel didn't even seem to notice the attack. Meanwhile, more white beams appeared. The second dreadnought began dissolving. Then the third. Each beam worked with terrifying efficiency, unmaking matter itself in a way that defied everything the Caltharians thought they knew about physics. Admiral. Zithara's voice was barely a whisper. We need to retreat now. Vexitar watched in horror as his fleet died around him. Ships that had conquered star systems were being erased like drawings on sand. His crew looked at him with desperate eyes, waiting for orders that might save them. All ships emergency jump to hyperspace, he commanded. Scatter pattern 7. Get out of here now. But it was too late. The white beams were faster than their escape systems. One by one, every massive dreadnought simply stopped existing. The alien ship worked with mechanical precision, showing no emotion, no hesitation, no mercy. As the beam reached toward his own flagship, Admiral Vextar had time for one last thought. Whatever civilization had built this ship, they had technology that made the mighty Caltharian Empire look like children playing with sticks and stones. The white light touched the flagship's hull, and Admiral Vextar, along with his ship and crew, became nothing more than scattered atoms floating in the darkness of space. When it was finished, the alien vessel turned and accelerated away, disappearing into the void as quickly as it had arrived. Where the 47th Reconnaissance Fleet had once sailed proudly through space, only cosmic dust remained, slowly spreading apart until even that would fade to nothing. The Caltharian Empire had just learned that they were not alone in the universe, and they were not the strongest. 3 days passed before the Caltharian High Command realized something was terribly wrong. The 47th Reconnaissance Fleet had missed 2 scheduled check-ins, and their emergency beacons had gone silent. In the Empire's 3,000-year history, an entire fleet had never simply vanished without a trace. Intelligence. Director Morden received the emergency briefing in his office on Kethris, Prime. The holographic display showed the fleet's last known position near the primitive system they had been investigating. His pale blue eyes studied the data while his aide waited nervously nearby. Send the investigation team immediately, Morden ordered. I want our best people on this. Something that can make 12 dreadnoughts disappear is a threat to the Empire itself. Within hours, the ISV Truth Seeker departed for the coordinates where the 47th Fleet had vanished. The investigation ship carried the Empire's most skilled analysts. Leading the team was Dr. Zenthia, a xenobiologist who had studied alien species for over a century. Military analyst Commander Vorthak brought his expertise in space combat and weapons technology. Together with Morden, they represented the Empire's best hope of understanding what had happened. The journey to the target system took 4 days at maximum hyperspace speed. During the trip, the team reviewed everything they knew about the missing fleet. Admiral Vextar had been investigating radio signals from a planet inhabited by primitive beings who called themselves humans. The signals suggested early space technology, nothing that should pose any threat to Imperial forces. Director, Dr. Zenthia said as they studied the data, these human signals show they have only basic rocket technology. They barely reached their own moon. How could such a primitive species threaten our fleet? Morden's expression was grim. That's what we need to find out. Either our intelligence was completely wrong, or something else happened here. When the Truth Seeker dropped out of hyperspace at the target coordinates, the investigation team immediately began scanning the area. What they found defied explanation. Sir, reported the ship's sensor officer, I'm detecting debris, but not much. Far less than what should remain from 12 dreadnoughts. Commander Vorthak studied the tactical displays. Show me the debris field. The main screen displayed a three-dimensional map of the area. Tiny particles of metal and other materials floated in space, but the amount was impossibly small. A single dreadnought contained millions of tons of hull plating, equipment, and weapons. What they were seeing might account for a few hundred tons at most. This doesn't make sense, Vorthak muttered. Where are the ships? Dr. Zenthia ran detailed scans on the debris particles they could collect. Her analysis equipment worked for hours, breaking down the molecular structure of the scattered remains. When the results came back, her face went pale. Director, she called, her voice shaking slightly. You need to see this. Morden joined her at the science station. The analysis showed metal fragments that had once been part of Imperial warships, but something was very wrong with them. These particles show signs of complete molecular disruption, Dr. Zenthia explained. It's as if the atomic bonds holding the metal together were simply turned off. The ships didn't explode or break apart. They were unmade at the most basic level of matter. What kind of weapon could do that? Morden asked. I don't know, she admitted. Our most advanced disruptors can break down small amounts of matter, but nothing on this scale. To unmake an entire dreadnought would require technology beyond anything in our databases. Commander Vorthak was examining energy readings from the battle site. I'm detecting residual energy signatures unlike anything I've seen before. The power levels required for this kind of destruction are enormous. Whatever hit our fleet was using weapons that make our plasma cannons look like toys. The team spent 2 more days collecting every piece of evidence they could find. Slowly, a picture began to emerge of what had happened to the 47th Fleet. The energy patterns suggested a single unknown vessel had engaged all 12 dreadnoughts simultaneously. The battle had lasted less than 10 minutes. There were no signs that the unknown ship had been damaged or destroyed. On the second day, Dr. Zenthia made a discovery that changed everything. Director, she called excitedly from her analysis station. I've found something in the debris. It's a fragment of a communication array still partially functional. Morden rushed to her station. Can you extract any data from it? I'm trying. The molecular disruption damaged most of the memory cores, but I might be able to recover some of the last transmissions. For hours, Dr. Zenthia worked to repair the damaged communication equipment. Finally, she managed to extract a few seconds of garbled audio from the device. The team gathered around as she played the recording. The voices were faint and distorted, but they could make out Admiral Vextar shouting orders to his fleet. There was panic in his voice, something that shocked the listeners. Vextar had been one of the Empire's most experienced commanders, a warrior who had never shown fear in 2 centuries of service. Then they heard something else. Another voice speaking in an unknown language. The words were clear and calm, completely different from the panicked Caltharian voices. Can you translate it? Morden asked. Dr. Zenthia fed the alien speech into their most advanced translation programs. The computers worked for several minutes, comparing the sounds to every known language in the Imperial database. Finally, results appeared on her screen. The translation system found partial matches, she reported. It identified 3 words with reasonable confidence. Terra, which seems to be a name or location. Defense protocol, suggesting this was some kind of military response, and she paused, checking the results again. What's the 3rd word? Morden demanded. First warning, Dr. Zenthia said quietly. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. A first warning suggested that whoever had destroyed the 47th Fleet considered it a minor response. It meant they had the capability and willingness to do much worse. Commander Vorthak was studying star charts on his tactical display. Director, if Terra refers to the 3rd planet in this system, then we're dealing with the same species that was sending those primitive radio signals. But that's impossible. Our intelligence showed they barely had spaceflight capability. Maybe our intelligence was wrong, Mordoun said grimly, or maybe these humans are much better at hiding their true capabilities than we thought. Dr. Zenthia looked up from her translation work. Sir, there's something else. The voice patterns in that transmission suggest the speaker was completely calm during the engagement. No stress, no excitement, no fear. Whoever destroyed our fleet treated it as a routine operation. The investigation team spent 1 more day gathering data before returning to Kethris Prime. During the journey home, they prepared their report for the High Command. The facts were clear but terrifying. An unknown species with technology superior to the Empire's had destroyed an entire fleet, and considered it nothing more than a warning. When they arrived at the imperial capital, Director Mordun immediately requested an emergency session with the High Council. The Empire's most powerful leaders gathered in the great chamber beneath the palace. Emperor Zarthek himself attended, his ancient face showing concern for the first time in decades. Mordun presented their findings to the stunned council. When he finished explaining what they had discovered, the chamber erupted in angry voices. Some council members refused to believe that any species could have technology superior to their own. Others demanded immediate military action against this new threat. Emperor Zarthek raised his hand for silence. His voice, aged by 5 centuries of rule, carried absolute authority. Director Mordun, the Emperor said, in your professional opinion, what are we dealing with? Mordun chose his words carefully. Your Majesty, we appear to have encountered a species that has been deliberately hiding their true technological capabilities. They allowed us to believe they were primitive, while secretly developing weapons that can unmake matter itself. The destruction of the 47th Fleet was intended as a message. What message? The Emperor asked. Stay away from their territory, Mordun replied. This was their first warning. I believe they have the capability to deliver much more devastating attacks if we ignore that warning. The Emperor leaned back in his throne, his ancient mind processing this new threat to his empire. For 3,000 years, the Caltherians had been the supreme power in this region of space. Now they faced something that could challenge that supremacy. Prepare the 3rd Imperial Guard Fleet, Emperor Zarthek commanded. If these humans want to threaten the Empire, they will learn the price of their arrogance. But even as he gave the order, a small part of the Emperor's mind wondered if they were making a terrible mistake. Captain Ji-Hoon Park stood in the briefing room aboard the THS Sejong, Earth's most advanced warship. The walls displayed tactical information about their recent encounter with the alien fleet. Around the table sat his senior officers, each one chosen for their expertise and dedication to defending humanity. Report, Commander Lee, Captain Park said to his first officer. Commander Minji Lee activated the holographic display showing their engagement with the Caltherian vessels. Sir, the quantum disruptors performed exactly as Dr. CO predicted. Complete molecular breakdown of all 12 enemy ships. No survivors, no escape pods detected. Dr. Hana Seo, the ship's chief science officer, nodded with satisfaction. The improvements we made to their own technology worked perfectly. The Caltherians never expected their weapons to be used against them with such efficiency. Lieutenant Tae-Hyun Kim, their weapons specialist, looked troubled. Captain, those ships had crews of 2,000 each. That's 24,000 beings we just killed. Are we sure this was the right choice? Captain Park's expression was stern but understanding. Lieutenant, those ships were in attack formation when we encountered them. Our sensors detected weapons charging and targeting systems locking onto our position. Following Terra Defense Force protocols, we attempted communication. When they refused to respond and continued their attack preparations, we had no choice but to defend ourselves. The room fell quiet as the officers considered this. They all knew the stakes involved in their mission. Earth had been preparing for this moment for 50 years, ever since the first Caltherian probe was shot down over Seoul in 2157. Dr. Seo, Captain Park continued, remind us how we got to this point. Dr. Seo stood and changed the display to show historical footage. In 2157, our air defense systems detected an unidentified object entering Earth's atmosphere over South Korea. Fighter jets were scrambled, and the object was brought down using conventional missiles. When recovery teams reached the crash site, they found technology unlike anything we had ever seen. The images showed twisted metal and strange energy cells being carefully transported to secret facilities. The craft was clearly designed for reconnaissance. Its computer systems contained star charts, technology specifications, and most importantly, evidence that an advanced alien civilization knew about Earth and was conducting surveillance. Sergeant Minho Choi, the ship's Marine commander, leaned forward. That's when the Terra Defense Force was created, right? Correct, Dr. Seo confirmed. World governments realized that if one alien probe had found us, others would follow. We needed to prepare for contact, and we had to assume it might not be friendly. The crashed probe gave us a 50-year head start. The display showed images of secret research facilities hidden around the world. Teams of scientists worked in complete secrecy to reverse engineer the alien technology. We learned about their power systems, their faster-than-light drives, their weapons, and their communication methods. But more importantly, we learned how to improve upon their designs. Lieutenant Kim seemed confused. How could we improve technology that was already centuries ahead of ours? Dr. Seo smiled. Because humans think differently than they do. The Caltherians, as we learned to call them, built their technology based on ancient designs they inherited from an even older civilization. They never really innovated or improved upon what they were given. They just copied the same patterns for thousands of years. But human scientists approached their technology with fresh perspectives. Commander Lee added, "We asked questions the Caltherians never thought to ask. We saw possibilities they never considered." The display changed to show technical diagrams of the quantum disruptor weapons. For example, their original molecular disruptors could break down small amounts of matter slowly. Human quantum physicists realized that by modifying the energy frequencies and focusing the quantum field differently, we could achieve complete atomic dissolution on a massive scale. Captain Park nodded approvingly. The result is weapons that can unmake entire starships in seconds. We took their own technology and made it more powerful than they ever imagined possible. Dr. Seo brought up another set of images showing the construction of Earth's secret fleet. Over the past 20 years, we've built 37 ships using hybrid human Caltherian technology. Each vessel incorporates improvements in every system: faster engines, stronger shields, more efficient power generation, and weapons that their own scientists couldn't match. The Sejong is our newest and most advanced ship, Captain Park explained. But she's not alone out here. The Yisunsen and Gwanggaeto are operating in nearby sectors. If needed, we can call upon the entire Terra Defense Force fleet. Lieutenant Kim studied the tactical displays. Sir, what are our orders if we encounter more Caltherian ships? Our mission is clear, Captain Park replied. Protect Earth and human space at all costs. We will attempt peaceful contact when possible, but we will not allow any hostile forces to threaten our homeworld. The Caltherians have been conducting surveillance of Earth for decades. That ends now. Commander Lee brought up intelligence reports on their screens. According to the data we recovered from crashed probes over the years, the Caltherian Empire controls thousands of star systems. They've been expanding across the galaxy for 3 millennia, conquering or enslaving every species they encounter. Their standard procedure is to send reconnaissance fleets to evaluate new civilizations. Dr. Seo added, if they find a species with useful resources or technology, they demand submission to the Empire. If the species refuses, they're destroyed. Sergeant Choi's expression was grim, so they came here expecting to find a primitive civilization they could easily conquer. Exactly, Captain Park confirmed. Instead, they found a species that had been studying their technology for 50 years and had made significant improvements to it. Their reconnaissance fleet was destroyed before they could report back to their empire. The officers absorbed this information silently. They understood the implications of what had happened. Earth had just announced its presence to a galactic empire by destroying one of their fleets. Retaliation was certain. Captain, Commander Lee asked, what do we do when they send a larger force? Captain Park's expression was determined. We show them that humanity doesn't back down from threats. We've spent 50 years preparing for this moment. Our scientists have given us weapons that can match anything they have. Our engineers have built ships that can outmaneuver theirs. Our strategists have developed tactics they've never encountered. Dr. Seo activated a new display showing Earth's defensive preparations. The home system is protected by orbital defense platforms, each armed with quantum disruptors. Our colonies on Luna and Mars have their own defensive fleets, and we have something the Caltherians don't expect. What's that? Lieutenant Kim asked. Unity, Captain Park answered. Every human government, every military force, every scientist and engineer on Earth is working together toward one goal: protecting our species and our freedom. The Caltherians rule through fear and domination. They've never faced an enemy that fights for something greater than conquest. The briefing continued for another hour, as the officers reviewed battle plans and defensive strategies. When it concluded, Captain Park remained in the briefing room with Commander Lee. Minji, he said quietly, are we doing the right thing? We just started a war with an empire that spans thousands of worlds. Commander Lee considered the question carefully.
Sir, they were already planning to conquer or destroy us.
We just chose to fight back instead of waiting for them to strike first. Besides, we're not alone in this. What do you mean? The intelligence data we've collected shows that the Caltherian Empire has many enemies. Species that have been conquered but never fully broken. Worlds that resent imperial rule. If we can prove that the Empire can be defeated, we might find allies among their own subjects. Captain Park nodded slowly. A rebellion from within while we attack from without. It's possible, Commander Lee agreed. But first we need to survive the retaliation. And we need to show the galaxy that Earth will not bow to any empire. As if summoned by their conversation, Lieutenant Kim's voice came over the ship's communication system. Captain to the bridge. We're detecting multiple hyperspace signatures approaching our position. Captain Park and Commander Lee exchanged glances. The Caltherians had responded faster than expected. Battle stations, Captain Park ordered as they headed for the bridge. It looks like we're about to find out if our preparations were enough. As they reached the bridge, the main display showed 7 massive ships dropping out of hyperspace. Each one was larger than the vessels they had destroyed 3 days earlier. The Caltherian Empire had sent a more powerful force to investigate the destruction of their reconnaissance fleet. All stations report ready for combat, Commander Lee announced. Captain Park settled into his command chair and studied the approaching ships. Time to see if 50 years of preparation was worth it. Emperor Zarthek paced the war room deep beneath his palace on Kethris Prime. Holographic displays showed star maps and fleet positions throughout the Empire. His closest advisors stood around the central table, their faces reflecting the shock and anger that filled the chamber. Impossible, growled War Minister Kethvar. No single ship could destroy an entire reconnaissance fleet. The reports must be wrong. Director Mordoon stepped forward, his expression grim. Your Majesty, our investigation was thorough. The 47th Fleet was completely destroyed by an unknown vessel. The energy signatures suggest technology more advanced than our own. Emperor Zarthek stopped pacing and fixed his ancient eyes on the intelligence director. In 500 years of rule, I have never heard such words spoken in this chamber. More advanced than the Empire? That is not possible. The evidence is clear, Your Majesty, Morden replied carefully. We must assume we are dealing with a previously unknown spacefaring civilization that has been hiding their true capabilities. The Emperor's rage was visible now. His pale skin grew darker and his hands clenched into fists. The Caltherian Empire had ruled this region of space for 3,000 years. They had inherited the technology of the ancient progenitors, making them the most powerful force in known space. No primitive species should be able to challenge them. Ready the 3rd Imperial Guard Fleet, the Emperor commanded. Grand Admiral Telvanus will take 50 of our finest ships to this system. If these humans think they can threaten the Empire, they will learn the price of such arrogance. War Minister Kethvar nodded eagerly. The 3rd Guard has never been defeated, Your Majesty. They will crush these upstart humans and restore the Empire's honor. But Director Morden looked troubled. Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider attempting diplomatic contact first. If these humans possess technology superior to ours, it might be wise to learn more about them before committing to military action. Emperor Zarthek's eyes blazed with fury. The Empire does not negotiate with species that attack our fleets. Grand Admiral Telvanus has his orders. These humans will submit or be destroyed. 3 days later, the massive fleet led by Grand Admiral Telvanus dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the human system. The 3rd Imperial Guard represented the finest warriors and most advanced ships in the Caltherian military. Each vessel was equipped with weapons that could devastate planets and shields that had never been penetrated. Admiral, reported Captain Vorthak from the sensor station, we're detecting 3 ships in the inner system. Same design as the vessel that destroyed the 47th Fleet. Grand Admiral Telvanus studied the tactical display with satisfaction. Only 3 ships against 50. The humans had seriously underestimated the Empire's response. Battle Formation 7, he ordered. Surround them and demand their surrender. If they refuse, destroy them quickly. The Imperial Guard fleet spread out in a classic encirclement pattern. Their ships moved with practiced precision, closing off all escape routes. Each vessel powered up its weapons and prepared for what should be a brief engagement. But as they approached the 3 human ships, something unexpected happened. Admiral, Captain Vorthak called, his voice filled with confusion. I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout the system. There are more ships here, but I can't get clear readings on their positions. Grand Admiral Telvanus frowned. Explain. Sir, it appears the humans have some kind of advanced stealth technology. My sensors are detecting energy signatures consistent with at least 15 additional vessels, but I can't pinpoint their exact locations. Before the Admiral could respond, his tactical officer shouted a warning. Multiple contacts decloaking. We're surrounded. The main display suddenly showed the true situation. What had appeared to be 3 isolated human ships was actually a carefully planned trap. 18 vessels now surrounded the Imperial Guard fleet, having used advanced stealth systems to remain hidden until the perfect moment. "How is this possible?" Grand Admiral Telvanus demanded. "Our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy." His answer came immediately as the human ships opened fire. The first thing that shocked the Caltherian warriors was the range of the human weapons. Their quantum disruptors reached out across impossible distances, striking Imperial Guard ships before the Caltherians could even target their enemies. Energy beams that should have dissipated over such ranges remained focused and deadly. The second shock was the power of those weapons. The white beams struck the shields of the Imperial Guard vessels and simply continued through them as if the defensive systems didn't exist. The first 3 ships hit by the quantum disruptors began dissolving immediately. "All ships, return fire," Grand Admiral Telvanus ordered. "Target the nearest human vessels." The Imperial Guard fleet unleashed its full firepower. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids fired at maximum power. Energy weapons capable of cracking planet surfaces lanced toward the human ships. Missile swarms that could overwhelm any known defense system streaked through space. None of it worked. The human ships moved with impossible grace, dodging weapons fire that should have been unavoidable. Their defensive systems absorbed or deflected energy beams that had never failed to destroy their targets. Most shocking of all, their shields seemed to grow stronger under attack, as if they were somehow feeding off the energy directed at them. "Admiral," Captain Vorthak reported, his voice filled with disbelief, "our weapons are having no effect. Their shields are deflecting everything we throw at them." Grand Admiral Telvanus watched in horror as more of his ships dissolved under the human quantum disruptors. The Imperial Guard had fought thousands of battles and never retreated from an enemy. But this was unlike anything they had ever encountered. The human ships fought with perfect coordination. They moved as if controlled by a single mind, covering each other's attacks and supporting damaged vessels. When one ship's shields weakened, others would position themselves to protect it while it recovered. Their tactical formations were flawless. Worse, the humans seemed to know exactly how Caltherian ships operated. They targeted weapon systems with surgical precision, disabling Imperial Guard vessels without destroying them. They hit engine compartments to prevent escape, then moved on to other targets while the crippled ships drifted helplessly. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "I'm intercepting human transmissions. They're coordinating their attack with incredible efficiency. Their communication systems are completely secure, but I can detect the data streams." "What are they saying?" the Admiral asked. "I can't translate the language, but the patterns suggest they're sharing targeting data, shield frequencies, and tactical information in real time. Every ship in their fleet knows exactly what every other ship is doing." Rand. Admiral Telvanus realized with growing horror that his fleet was being outfought by an enemy that understood warfare better than the Empire's finest warriors. The humans weren't just technologically superior, they were tactically superior as well. As he watched another 3 Imperial Guard ships dissolve under quantum disruptor fire, the Admiral made a decision that would have been unthinkable just hours earlier. "All ships prepare to withdraw," he ordered. "Set course for the hyperspace jump point." "Sir?" Captain Vorthak couldn't hide his shock. "Are we retreating?" "We're preserving what's left of the fleet," the Admiral replied grimly. "We need to report back to the Emperor. The humans are not what we expected." But as the surviving Imperial Guard ships turned toward their escape route, they discovered that the humans had anticipated this move as well. 6 human vessels had positioned themselves between the Caltherian fleet and the hyperspace jump point, cutting off their retreat. The trap was complete. For the first time in his 200-year military career, Grand Admiral Telvanus found himself completely outmaneuvered by an enemy force. The humans had used superior technology, better tactics, and perfect coordination to defeat the Empire's most elite fleet. "Admiral," his communications officer called, "we're receiving a transmission from the human ships." "Put it through," Telvanus ordered. The voice that came through their speakers spoke clear, fluent Caltherian. "Caltherian fleet, this is Captain Ji-Hoon Park of the Terran Defense Force. You have entered human space without permission and with hostile intent. Your fleet is surrounded and outgunned. I offer you this single opportunity to surrender." Grand Admiral Telvanus felt his world crumbling around him. In 3,000 years, no one had ever demanded the surrender of an Imperial Guard fleet. The very concept was unthinkable. "Captain Park," he replied, struggling to maintain his dignity. "I am Grand Admiral Telvanus of the 3rd Imperial Guard. The Caltherian Empire does not surrender to anyone." "Then you will be destroyed," came the calm reply. "You have 60 seconds to reconsider." The Admiral looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were the Empire's finest warriors, but even they could see the hopelessness of their situation. Half their fleet had already been destroyed, and the humans had barely taken any damage. As the seconds ticked away, Grand Admiral Telvanus faced the most difficult decision of his career. He could order his remaining ships to fight to the death, maintaining the Empire's honor while accomplishing nothing. Or he could do something no Imperial Guard commander had ever done before. 6 months after the surrender of the 3rd Imperial Guard fleet, the situation in the galaxy had changed completely. Emperor Zarthek sat in his throne room, reading reports that filled him with growing dread. Human ships had been seen in 17 different star systems. They were no longer hiding or defending their territory. They were hunting. "Your Majesty," Director Morden entered the chamber carrying yet another intelligence briefing. "We have confirmed reports from the Verloc system. 3 of our patrol ships were destroyed by a single human vessel. The survivors reported that the humans demanded the release of all enslaved populations before opening fire." Emperor Zarthek's ancient hands gripped the arms of his throne. "They're not just attacking our military forces. They're freeing our slaves." "Yes, Your Majesty. Intelligence suggests they're trying to start rebellions throughout the Empire. Several subject species have already begun uprising against Imperial rule." The Emperor closed his eyes and tried to understand how everything had gone so wrong. For 3,000 years, the Caltherian Empire had expanded across the galaxy without meeting any serious resistance. Now a single species had shattered their sense of invincibility and was systematically dismantling their power. "What about Grand Admiral Telvanus?" the Emperor asked. "Have we heard anything from the prisoners?" Director Morden's expression was grim. "The humans released a statement last week. They say they're treating our prisoners well, following what they call the laws of war. They've offered to exchange them for enslaved populations from 3 different worlds." "Exchange?" The Emperor's voice was filled with outrage. "They want us to trade our finest warriors for slaves?" "It appears so, Your Majesty. They've also demanded that we withdraw from all systems inhabited by species that joined the Empire involuntarily." Emperor Zarthek stood and walked to the great window overlooking his capital city. Millions of Caltherians went about their daily lives below, unaware that their empire was crumbling around them. How could he tell them that everything they believed about their superiority was a lie? "Sir," Director Morden continued, "there's something else. Our scientists have been studying the weapon signatures from the human attacks. They believe the humans somehow acquired our technology decades ago and have been improving upon it. How is that possible? We found records of a missing reconnaissance probe from 70 years ago. It was reported lost near the human homeworld. If they recovered that probe and reverse-engineered our technology..." The Emperor turned from the window, his face showing the weight of his centuries. "They've been preparing for this war while we remained ignorant. How many ships do they have?" "Our estimates suggest at least 40 vessels, possibly more. Each one appears to be more advanced than our best warships." "And Your Majesty..." Morden hesitated. "What?" "They're headed this way. Our long-range sensors have detected a human fleet entering the outer systems of our territory. They're moving directly toward Kethris Prime." Meanwhile, in the command center of the THS Sejong, Admiral Jisoo Han reviewed the final preparations for humanity's boldest operation yet. The Terra Defense Force had grown from a secret organization to the most feared military power in the galaxy. Now they were ready to take the war directly to the Empire's heart. "Admiral," Captain Ji-Hun Park reported, "all ships report ready for the final approach. The fleet is in position." Admiral Han studied the tactical display showing 42 human vessels arranged in perfect battle formation. Each ship represented years of human innovation and determination. They had taken Caltherian technology and made it better. They had studied Imperial tactics and developed superior strategies. Now they would test everything they had learned against the Empire's strongest defenses. "Captain Park," Admiral Han said, "you and the Sejong have been the tip of the spear since this war began. You destroyed the first Imperial fleet and proved that humans could match their technology. Are you ready to finish what we started?" Captain Park's expression was determined. Yes, Admiral. The crew is ready. Around the command center, the finest officers in the Terra Defense Force prepared for what might be the final battle of the war. Commander Minji Lee coordinated with the other ships in the fleet. Dr. Hana Seo monitored their quantum disruptor systems. Lieutenant Taehyun Kim prepared targeting solutions for the orbital defenses they knew waited ahead. All ships, Admiral Han broadcast to the fleet. In 30 minutes we will drop out of hyperspace at Kethris Prime. This is the capital world of an empire that has enslaved countless species for 3,000 years. Today we show the galaxy that no empire is too powerful to be challenged. The human fleet activated their hyperspace drives and vanished from normal space, racing toward the heart of the Caltherian Empire. When they arrived at Kethris Prime, they found the largest concentration of military power the galaxy had ever seen. 500 Imperial warships surrounded the planet, supported by massive orbital defense platforms and energy shields that could deflect planet-killing weapons. Admiral, Captain Park reported from the sensor station, I count 537 enemy vessels, multiple dreadnought classes, heavy cruisers, and support ships, plus 43 orbital defense platforms. Admiral Han studied the defensive formation with approval. They've committed everything to protecting their homeworld perfect. Sir? Commander Lee looked confused. We're outnumbered more than 10 to 1. Which means when we defeat this fleet, the Empire will have nothing left to defend itself with. Admiral Han explained. This isn't just a battle for Kethris Prime. This is the end of Caltherian dominance in the galaxy. The human fleet moved into attack formation, but instead of charging directly at the massive Imperial force, they did something unexpected. The ships spread out across the system, positioning themselves at seemingly random locations around the planet. Emperor Zarthek watched from his palace as the human ships took their positions. He had gathered every available warship to defend his homeworld. Never in Imperial history had so many vessels been assembled in one place. Attack them now, he commanded, while they're scattered and vulnerable. But Grand Admiral Vorkan, commanding the defense fleet, hesitated. Your Majesty, this could be a trap. The humans have never used conventional tactics before. His caution proved wise. As the Imperial fleet moved to engage the scattered human ships, the true nature of the human strategy became clear. Each human vessel had positioned itself at a carefully calculated location that would maximize the effect of their quantum disruptors on the planet's defensive systems. When the 42 human ships fired simultaneously, their combined quantum disruptor beams created a resonance effect that overwhelmed the planetary shields. The energy barriers that had protected Kethris Prime for centuries simply collapsed. Impossible! Emperor Zarthek screamed as his palace shields failed, and emergency alarms began wailing throughout the capital. The human fleet didn't target the city or attempt to cause civilian casualties. Instead, they focused their fire on military installations, communication centers, and government buildings. Each shot was precisely aimed to disable the Empire's ability to coordinate resistance while minimizing harm to the population. All Imperial ships, Admiral Han broadcast on every frequency. This is Admiral Jisoo Han of the Terra Defense Force. Your planetary defenses have been neutralized. Your capital is defenseless. I offer you one opportunity to surrender before we are forced to destroy your fleet. Grand Admiral Vorkan looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They had watched the humans systematically destroy Imperial forces across the galaxy. They had seen the Third Imperial Guard fleet surrender, rather than face annihilation. And now they were witnessing technology that could penetrate defenses the Empire had considered impregnable. Admiral Han, he replied, what are your terms? Complete surrender of all Imperial military forces, immediate release of all enslaved populations, withdrawal from all involuntarily occupied worlds, and the establishment of a new galactic government that represents all species equally. In his palace, Emperor Zarthek raged at the audacity of the human demands, but even his anger couldn't change the reality of the situation. His fleet was outgunned, his defenses had failed, and resistance would only lead to the destruction of everything he had ruled for 5 centuries. Your Majesty, Director Mordun said quietly, we have no choice. If we refuse, they'll destroy the fleet and bombard the planet. Our people will suffer for our pride. Emperor Zarthek looked out at his capital city one last time as the absolute ruler of the Caltherian Empire. When he spoke again, It would be as the leader of just another species in a galaxy where humans had proven that no empire was eternal. Admiral Han, he transmitted to the human fleet. The Caltharian Empire surrenders. Captain Park stood on the bridge of the Sejong, watching as 500 Imperial warships powered down their weapons and prepared to surrender. Commander Lee approached him with casualty reports. "Sir," she said, "final tally from the entire campaign. 17 human ships damaged, 2 destroyed. Total crew losses, 43 personnel." Captain Park nodded solemnly. Every loss was mourned, but the numbers were remarkably light considering they had just defeated a galactic empire. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim called from the communications station. "Terra,"